Honors Algebra 2 Pre-Calculus. We're doing homework review of 10.7 in Pre-Calc, number 65 on page 774. We are given the polar point 2 comma pi over 4, and we're asked first to graph it. So remember that when you're graphing in polar, you use this like polar grid paper, right, which I at some point had some printed to use to show you, but I don't know where it is, so it's cool. But it's these concentric circles, right? So what this says, when you graph in polar, the first thing you do is look at the second part of the point. This tells you what angle to look at. Well, pi over 4 is this 45-degree angle in quadrant 1, right? That's where pi over 4 is. And then this radius tells you how far to walk from the pole outward in that direction. So 1, 2. So this is the point that I want right there, okay? So that's the first part. There's my graph, right? It's this point right here. It's on the second of the concentric circles. It's at the angle pi over 4. Then you're asked to write it in two different ways. So there are literally infinite other ways to write this point. Infinite. You could do this all day for the rest of your life, and you could keep doing it until you died, and you could keep doing it as a ghost forever, and whatever your belief system is forever. So there are infinite right answers. There are two obvious, more obvious or simpler right answers, and we'll put those, but I'm going to explain to you how to find them. So option 1, so there are two sort of categories of right answers. Option 1 is 2 comma any angle that is coterminal, so any angle that is coterminal with pi over 4. That is, so pi over 4 plus or minus 2n pi, meaning you add a full circle and then end up at the same spot. So in the back of the book, one of the answers they have is 9 pi over 4, because that would be pi over 4 plus a full circle. Pi over 4 plus 2 pi would be pi over 4 plus 8 pi over 4, which is 9 pi over 4. But you could also keep adding circles like that, right? Another version going in the same direction is if you went around another time, you'd end up with a 17 pi over 4, right? Or maybe instead of going around forwards from pi over 4, maybe you went around backwards and you got 2 comma negative 7 pi over 4, right? Instead of adding 8 pi over 4, you subtracted 8 pi over 4. That's one way to write. So this is 3 different versions of that point already. The other option is instead of going in the direction where 2 is positive, you could do negative 2 comma and then pick any angle that is coterminal with 5 pi over 4. So right here, it would be 5 pi over 4 plus or minus 2n pi, meaning any angle that is the same as 5 pi over 4, because a negative radius means walk backwards, right? So if you wanted to land here, you could face this direction, and instead of walking forwards, walk backwards too. So negative 2 comma 5 pi over 4 is the other one they have back in the back of the book. But again, you could use any angle that's coterminal with this. So you could add or subtract 2 pi to this, which is the same as 8 pi over 4. So it would also work to call this negative 2 comma negative 3 pi over 4, because that would be taking away a 2 pi from the 5 pi over 4. I could do negative 2 comma 13 pi over 4, because that would be adding an 8 pi over 4 to the 5, and so on. This is 6 possible answers, but there are literally infinite of them. They just have to fall in one of these 2 categories.